Ben, pull, and
Good afternoon and welcome to the State Memorial Service in honour of leading Senior Constable Lynette Taylor, Senior Constable Kevin King, Constable Josh Presney and Constable Glenn Humphreys. My name is Virginia Trioli from ABC Radio and Television, and I'm delighted to be your Master of Ceremonies here today. You will have received an Order of Service and a blue ribbon. Now, the blue ribbon has been provided courtesy of the Victoria Police Blue Ribbon Foundation, and we thank them for their kind donation of the ribbons for all attendees today. To commence proceedings, I'd like to introduce Auntie Diane Kerr, Wurundjeri Elder, for our Welcome to Country.
Thank you. I honour my elders and my ancestors, and I pay homage to the sacred grounds that we're on today. I wish to acknowledge any Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander peoples, any elders of different nations, any First Nations peoples from across the waters. I acknowledge the Governor and the Premier, and I acknowledge you all, and I pay my respects to your ancestors, elders and families. It's an honour and a privilege to be here today to celebrate people's lives that should never have been taken. No one should have a family member go to work and not come home. It's been heartbreaking for all of you, especially in the police force. And I want to acknowledge you all, and I hope that you take care of each other and take care of the families that are suffering. You know, when we lose people and we want to heal, as Aboriginal people we have healing ceremonies, which is inclusive of a smoking ceremony. And then we sit around in a circle and have a yarn. It's important for all of you to heal, whether you do your own rituals or that you ask someone to come to you and help you. You're all family, and family is very important. And if you don't know each other, please get to know each other. It's very important that these families are well cared for and surrounded for their well-being and for their healing. So it's a pleasure that I'm here today, and I know people are watching on Zoom. I can't welcome you on Zoom to my country, but I can acknowledge the country you're on and hope that their communities take care of you as well. Can I just say to all of you, I want to offer my hand in friendship as my heart breaks, but also I wanted to offer you my hand in friendship so that we can journey together. We all need to look after each other, and all it takes is an open hand and an open heart. Can I just say to all of you, may Bunjil, my Creator, surround you all and give you strength and resilience. On behalf of my elders, I say Wominjeka, Wurundjeri Balik Yimangundibik. That means welcome to Wurundjeri country. I wish to welcome you from the tops of the trees to the roots in the ground. When we look after country and we look after each other, country looks after us. I say Nungodjan, that means thank you. Thank you for allowing me to be a part of your journey today. Nungodjan.
Thank you, Auntie Diane. I'd now like to invite everyone who is able to please stand for the Australian National Anthem, to be sung today by Raphael Wong. And for police and military in uniform, please place your cap on and salute.
Australians, all let us rejoice, for we are one and free. We've golden soil and wealth for toil. Our home is girt by sea. Our land abounds in nature's gifts of beauty rich and rare. In history's page let every stage advance Australia fair. In joyful strains then let us sing, advance Australia fair. Beneath our radiant Southern Cross, we'll toil with hearts and hands to make this commonwealth of ours renowned of all the lands. For those who've come across the seas, we've boundless plains to share. With courage let us all combine to advance Australia fair. In joyful strains then let us sing, advance Australia fair.
Thank you, Raphael. Please be seated. I would now like to acknowledge the following guests, and first and foremost, the families of each of the officers that we're honouring here today. Lynette's husband, Stuart, and their sons, Nathan and Alexander. Kevin's wife, Sharon, and their sons, James, Henry and William. Josh's parents, Andrew and Belinda, and his brother, Alex. And Glenn's partner, Todd, and Glenn's family from New South Wales. I'd also like to acknowledge Brigadier Robert Marsh, representing the Governor-General of the Commonwealth of Australia, Her Excellency the Honourable Linda Dessau, Governor of Victoria, and Mr Anthony Howard, the Honourable Daniel Andrews, Premier of Victoria, and Mrs Catherine Andrews, the Honourable Karen Andrews, representing the Prime Minister of Australia, the Honourable Lisa Neville, Minister for Police, the Honourable Jacqueline Symes, Attorney-General and Minister for Emergency Services, the Honourable Danny Pearson, Assistant Treasurer, Minister for Regulatory Reform, Minister for Government Services and Minister for Creative Industries, Ms Ingrid Stitt, Minister for Workplace Safety, Minister for Early Childhood, the Honourable Nazir El-Azmar, President of the Legislative Council, the Honourable Colin Brooks, Speaker of the Legislative Assembly, and former Premiers of Victoria, the Honourable Ted Baillieu and Mrs Robin Baillieu, the Honourable John Brumby, the Honourable Jeff Kennett and Mrs Felicity Kennett, Chief Commissioner of Victoria Police, Shane Patton, the Honourable Matthew Guy, Leader of the Opposition, the Honourable Peter Walsh, Leader of the Nationals, Mr Brad Batten, Shadow Minister for Police, the Honourable Richard Marles, representing the Federal Leader of the Opposition, members of the Victorian and Commonwealth Parliaments here today, Wurundjeri Elder, Auntie Diane Kerr, and the many members of Victoria Police, family members, friends and guests. On the 22nd of April 2020, 4 Victoria Police officers lost their lives in the Eastern Freeway tragedy. In the wake of that devastating evening, we saw an outpouring of grief from the community. But until today, we have not had the opportunity to come together and formally reflect on the service and sacrifice of these 4 Victorians. We gather here to honour Leading Senior Constable Lynette Taylor, Senior Constable Kevin King, Constable Josh Presney, and Constable Glenn Humphreys. And now invite the Honourable Daniel Andrews, the Premier of Victoria, to come to the stage and to share his tribute.
Firstly, can I begin by acknowledging the traditional owners of this land and pay my deep personal respects to their elders past and present, and on your behalf thank Arnie Dye Kerr for her wonderful welcome to country. Given that Virginia has just acknowledged a very long list of people who are here with us today, can I simply say, Your Excellency, Chief Commissioner, Association Secretary Wayne Gatt, my ministerial and parliamentary colleagues, families who I'll talk about in a moment, and of course each and every woman and man of Victoria Police who are here with us today, and other distinguished guests. Every day, police families say goodbye to a loved one, sending them off to do the most important of work, to fight crime, to protect the vulnerable, and to keep us safe. They hope that their special person will have a good shift, a safe shift that ends with their safe return. I know because they've told me the work is dangerous and the waiting can be very, very tough. This is because their loved one has chosen to live a life in the service and protection of others. It's essential, it's honourable, and it can be tragic. I doubt any of us will forget where we were and what we were doing when news filtered through that 4 officers, 4 partners, parents, sons, daughters and siblings have been killed in a terrible incident on the Eastern Freeway. It affected all of us. It broke our hearts. And it served as a powerful reminder of just how dangerous policing is. Just how vulnerable, how finely balanced the job can be. In the days that followed this tragedy, I spoke with each of the fallen officers' families. It was important to listen and to make sure that they understood that we honour their service, we grieve their loss, and we commit to never forget them, their values, and the amazing Victorians they were. To live that life, to run toward the danger, to put your safety on the line in order to protect others is a special thing. No words can properly describe its value or worth. No words can properly describe our gratitude. And no words can heal the wounds of loss and grief, because the tragedy of that day hangs over each family, each person, each member of Victoria Police, and indeed our entire state. Today and all days, we remember and we say thank you. We commit to not only support our police, but to honour those who died that day with resolve and resources, and an all-important recognition that police members come from police families. Let us never forget Lynette Taylor, a member of the force for 3 decades, who'd seen just about every police station across our state. She was a devoted mum to her 2 sons, Nathan and Alexander. She loved her husband, Stuart, and together they travelled and saw so much of the world. Let us never forget Kevin King, who loved his family, the Tigers, and his guitar. He adored his wife Sharon and their 3 sons, James, William and Harry. He lived a life for others and was perhaps always destined to wear the Victoria Police uniform. Let us never forget Glenn Humphries, who packed up his life and moved states to find his calling at Victoria Police. He loved his mum Katie, his dad Mark and his brother Wade. Always on the go and always full of life, Glenn loved his partner Todd more than anything in the world, and together they made our state their home. And let us never forget Josh Presney, who loved his mum Belinda and his dad Andrew and his partner Stacey. He loved his brother Alex too, who will cherish the memory of awarding his brother with his police badge on the day of his graduation. We honour them as great Victorians. We acknowledge their service and the great debt that we owe them and every member of Victoria Police. And on this day, we thank every family that makes their extraordinary work, the extraordinary work, service and sacrifice of Victoria Police possible.
Thank you, Premier. I'd now like to invite the Honourable Lisa Neville, Minister for Police, to come up to the stage and to read a poem.
I have the privilege today to read a poem that was written by leading Senior Constable Shane Hafner. He wrote this on the night of the 22nd of April 2020, after he heard about the loss of his 4 colleagues, Lynette, Kevin, Glenn and Josh, and captures the shock and grief of all Victorians, but particularly those felt by Victoria Police members that night and every day since. It's not about the badge or the uniform we wear. We do it for you and because we care. We leave our families to protect your home and you, and we do it because we care about what we do. We do it to serve and protect you as best as we can. We do it even knowing what the risks are at hand. Our uniforms aren't strong and they're not made of steel, nor are our emotions of how we can feel. We are human, we feel pain just like you do. We see so many things you wouldn't want to. But tonight we've seen it all and felt such grief of losing 4 lives in circumstances that beg a belief. Tragically taken while they protected us all, tragically taken and can't protect us anymore. The tears are now flowing and our hearts are aching for the loss we are feeling and our hearts are breaking. Tonight we cry at the loss of family and friends, and the tears will never dry and our thoughts will never end. You live in our hearts and in our thoughts in every way, of the risks that you took and the price that you paid.
Thank you, Minister Neville. I now welcome the Chief Commissioner of Victoria Police, Shane Patton, to offer his reflection today.
It's my privilege to be here today, and I too would like to acknowledge the traditional owners of the land on which we meet and pay my respects to elders past, present and emerging. 653 days. It's been 653 days since we lost 4 of our colleagues, and not a day goes by where they're not in our thoughts. To the families and friends of Lynette, Kevin, Josh and Glenn, as I've said before, I cannot begin to imagine the emotions you all felt and continue to feel as you grieve the loss of your loved ones. To you, they weren't only police officers, they were children, a mother, a father, siblings, partners and friends. So while I'll be talking about Lynette, Kevin, Josh and Glenn from a policing perspective, I recognise that what they did in policing is not the sum of the person. And today is about honouring them and celebrating their fullness of their lives. As police officers, when they joined Victoria Police, they immediately and permanently became part of a police family, a strong police family, a proud and close family of police officers, protective service officers, public servants, all united with one common goal, that being community safety. It says a lot about the character and values of Lynette, Kevin, Josh and Glenn that they chose policing as a career because service means something. Policing means something. During our graduation ceremonies, when I speak with the recruits after presenting them with their badge, I tell them they've made an important choice. They've chosen to be one of a few protecting the many. They've chosen to uphold the right. That was the choice all 4 of our colleagues made and tragically died fulfilling it. Their deaths whilst on duty on the 22nd of April 2020 reverberated throughout the Victoria Police Force. As a police family, we mourn the loss of our colleagues, and 653 days later, we continue to grieve their loss. That this tragic incident occurred during the most routine activity of police work, if there is such a thing as a routine activity, a car stop that occurs every day on every shift, means that other police officers have questioned and examined their own vulnerability. Police are human. They cry, they suffer, they worry. But they do what they do because the community expects it of us and because they want to be of service. Many police will have even considered their own sliding doors moment in the days, weeks and months that followed this incident. They'd be considering, thinking, I could have been rostered on that shift. I've stopped numerous cars on that stretch of the freeway. I patrol there all the time. I've had many close calls when pulling over cars. Their own vulnerabilities remain raw, and the feeling of susceptibility is always a risk in policing. However, our culture, our selfless can-do and service culture, means we keep coming back to do what we're trained to do. The steely determination to continue to do what was required by all police was so evident immediately after this tragedy occurred. What has also gotten us through this, though, is the support we've received from the community and from other policing and emergency services right across the nation, but from around the world. It has been beyond anything we could have imagined. That goes from buildings lit up in blue to the countless flowers and messages we received, to the fundraising efforts and the many public dedications to our officers. This support touched us all because it was clear the lives and service of Lynette, Kevin, Josh and Glenn were valued by the community. People wanted to recognise them in whatever way they could, just like we are doing here today. I can only imagine what this very public show of support meant to each of the families. In times of unimaginable loss, we seek to have the strength to continue and to try and make sense out of something that appears to be senseless. Throughout these very dark days, the families of our 4 colleagues, our fallen colleagues, the families have shown courage, dignity, strength and resilience in the face of what is only a heartbreaking experience, and with the challenges of not being able to mourn collectively due to the COVID-19 restrictions. We embrace the 4 families as forever part of our broader police family. It's said that the bond forged through adversity is privileged. And out of this tragedy, it's our privilege to now be a part of their lives, forever united in recognising and remembering the loss of their loved ones, our colleagues. While I only personally knew one of our fallen colleagues, Lynette Taylor, who I worked with when I was at the Superintendent at the Traffic Camera Office, the feeling of loss and the void left by all of them is the same. 4 lives cut short in serving the community. To the families, thank you for sharing your loved ones with us. Whether they served with us for months, years or decades, they left a legacy and did an abundance of good work within the community. They're also valued and respected colleagues, and I can't begin to tell you how sorry I am that they never came home from their shift that night. Please know we're all here for you. We will always be here. You are forever a part of the Victoria Police Blue family. Leading Senior Constable Lynette Taylor, Senior Constable Kevin King, First Constable Josh Presney and Constable Glenn Humphries, you will be forever remembered. Thank you.
Thank you, Chief Commissioner. Raphael Wong and Shireen Peck will now perform a song that's been chosen by the families for a memorial today. And the song is Heaven Was Needing a Hero.
Came by today to see you, though I had to let you know. If I knew the last time that I held you was the last time, I'd have held you and never let go.
Oh, it's kept me awake nights wondering. I lie in the dark just asking why. I've always been told you won't be called home until it's your time.
I guess heaven was needing a hero, somebody just like you, brave enough to stand up for what you believe and follow it through.
When I try to make it make sense in my mind, the only conclusion I come to is that heaven was needing a hero like you. I remember the last time I saw you. Oh, you held your head up proud. I laughed inside when I saw how you were standing out in the crowd.
You're such a part of who I am. Now that part will just be void. No matter how much I need you now, heaven needed need you more. 'Cause heaven was needing a hero, somebody just like you, brave enough to stand up for what you believe and follow it through.
When I try to make it make sense in my mind, the only conclusion I come to is that heaven was needing a hero like you.
Yes, heaven was needing a hero. That's you.
Thank you, Raphael and Shireen, for that lovely performance. We now move on to a very special part of this afternoon's service, the family tributes. I'd now like to welcome to the stage Leading Senior Constable Lynette Taylor's family. Joining you this afternoon, her husband Stuart Schultz, her cousin Heather Bridges, her brother David Taylor, and her niece Ada Taylor. If you could come up to the stage, thank you.
My poem is entitled Remembering Lynette. Lynette and the wider family lived in Pascoe Vale, spent her happy childhood there before she learnt to sail. Birthday and Christmas parties were fun times, that's for sure. Beach holidays at Blairgowrie shared together, we loved it all. Joined Janet on a Saturday playing in a netball team, and before she travelled overseas, team filling she would be. Her aunties joined her parents at her police graduation, watching as Lynette took her oath with joy and admiration. When overseas exploring, visited rallies in the USA. Special bonds with Drew and Janet continued all the way. Her wedding, then her children, filled us all with joy. Wherever Lynette was, she made a great home for Stuart and two special boys. We watched in awe and wonder as home ground yacht was lifted high, enjoying trips on Port Phillip Bay as the sunset filled the sky. As the family spread and travelled, Lynette became the glue between us, keeping us updated. Each time we met was seamless. Wherever she was travelling, she welcomed extended family there. From Mackay and to the Gold Coast, yacht hospitality for all to share. Lynette's parting was so sudden, it tore us all apart. We will always love and remember her and treasure her in our hearts. Her love of life, good humour, along life's pathway shared. Lynette was not just niece and cousin, but precious, beloved friend.
As one of Lynette's brothers, I am grateful for the opportunity to say a few words. It did not take the tragic loss of 4 police officers doing their duty and protecting the community nearly 2 years ago for us to know that Lynette, Kevin, Josh and Glenn were not only police officers, but they were very much loved by their families and friends and are truly missed. In losing Lynette, we lost a wife, a mother, a sister, an aunt, a niece, a cousin and a friend to many. We have many, many happy memories that are treasured. Today's memorial is an opportunity to share just a few of those memories. It is also an opportunity to publicly thank all those who have provided support in various ways. There are too many to name, but in particular, I wish to thank the passers-by who stopped and the first responders who attended that tragic scene. It was extremely difficult for me to read and hear about the horrendous circumstances of the tragedy and the reference to the dying policewoman, knowing that was my sister. We take comfort from the knowledge that Lynette and the other officers were given respect, comforted, and most importantly, treated with humanity. I would also like to express our gratitude to the Priest family and all that that entails. Not only did they have to deliver the devastating news to us, but they also had to deal with the loss of 4 colleagues. We simply want to express our heartfelt thank you.
A respected police officer, a mother of 2, a sister to 4, an aunt to 8, a first cousin to 28, a friend to many, Lynette was also an adventurer. From backpacking in her youth to actually building a boat and sailing off with the family, then to luxury cruising in more recent years, Lynette simply loved to travel and explore the world. Lynette Taylor was someone who do things. She was brave and her moral compass was incredibly strong. Lynette was also fiercely determined. Whilst at the police academy, her one nemesis became the 6-foot wall she needed to scale to be able to graduate. With no mountain ever too high, my grandfather helped her build a 6-foot wall in their driveway for her to run at and practice. Again and again, she would throw herself against this wall. One day, watched on by one of her loving brothers, Ian, he gave her one little tip that changed everything. Ian told Lynette to change her lead foot before she took the jump, and up and over she went. I always like to think of that as her putting her best foot forward. It is poignant and something that I love the most, that it took a family effort to help make that happen. In terms of the Taylor family, Lynette was our captain, always the one to arrange everything and everyone. Without her, we have been a ship without a rudder, but slowly, helped by the love of our dear friends, Vic Pole, and the outpouring of support from the community, we are navigating a new way. On behalf of the Taylor family, I joined Stuart, my father and cousin, in thanking each and every one of you so very much. Although Lynette's journey ended abruptly and too soon, in the words of Ernest Hemingway, it is good to have an end to journey toward, but
It is the journey that matters in the end.
I would like to say first that I acknowledge the absence of mine and Lynette's family's members, Auntie Joyce, Auntie Marge, Uncle Harold in particular, for their health, Lynette's brother, Ian and Michelle, Matthew and Nikki, Rebecca and Andrew, who for health and personal reasons can't be here today. I'd also like to acknowledge the absence of her friends, both international and local. And I also acknowledge that there are several members of Victoria Police and first responders who have not returned or have been unable to return to work after the incident, and I wish them all the best and thank them. Lynette Taylor, 27417, graduated from the Police Academy in Glen Waverley in front of her family and friends. Lynette was considered a mature age recruit as she was almost 30 years of age when she graduated. Her first training station was the A District Community Policing Squad at Russell Street. At that time, the night shifts of the CPS members covered almost half the state. She threw herself into all sorts of activities, including parachuting. She would have applied for the SOG Airborne Division, but no, not to be. Lynette was transferred to Force Reserve, a black hole the police used to disappear into if they needed to work in a strange or complex place. She became a master of disguises and could blend in anywhere. Her association with people of different viewpoints kept her active and away from home in various parts of the city and the state. Most of that work was undertaken on her own, and with her age and dress, she was never discovered. After this, she had her first stint at the traffic alcohol section. As you can see, the original buses were converted trucks. She'd employed local lads to teach the constables the arts of cleaning windows and windscreens. She was always up for teaching them young to drive. Was that just one of her disguises? In these vehicles, she would take her troops away and travel all around country Victoria. Next came a stint at the Traffic Camera Office, where she discovered the complexity of people's alibis as to why they should not be penalised for a traffic infringement. She would process between 60 and 80 applications a day. She would read every single one, and she replied to every single one personally. The awards and disguises continued. It was whilst at the Traffic Camera Office she was nominated for the Victorian of the Year on the 3AW rumour file, when she cancelled 23 tickets with the stroke of a pen that were issued to a group of bikies on the travelling to Phillip Island Grand Prix when they were all under police escort at the time. With her well-developed skills of supervision of constables, she set her supervisory skills in other areas. I told her she should take promotion, but she just scoffed and said she couldn't sit behind a desk all day, and she said, besides that, I like the people I work with. Lynette travelled throughout the state in her bus with her troops, even at holiday times. She was always making sure the troops were well looked after and they were happy to be with her on her trips away. She had an Easter surprise for Horsham and Christmas cheer in Ballarat. Lynette liked dressing up and attending all the major events in Melbourne, such as the Melbourne Cup, the Australian Open, the Grand Prix, football at this stadium, Women's World Cup of Cricket at the MCG, and of course every Richmond home game at the MCG. Lynette worked out there on every shift and all over Victoria. Some of these places will be familiar to you. The buses did stand out with their livery, and they did stand on the side of the road, and they were always exposed to fast-moving traffic. As you can see, she never worked on her birthday, and she always dressed the part, even in the middle of winter. Lynette was always to make sure that the Victoria Police assets were fully utilised with driving lessons and recruitment of the young and recommendations for further driver education to older police members. Lynette suffered 2 major injuries during her policing career with both her feet run over by a traffic operations group member at Albert Park in the late 1990s. She was off work for 4 months, couldn't walk for 2. And again in 2018, as the NOS training mishap, she broke both her wrists simultaneously, both identical breaks, both pinned and screwed. She was off for 6 months. Lynette's last trip was to Mildura in March 2020. And this was where it was all going to end.
Thank you, Stuart, Heather, David and Ada. Such a beautiful tribute, giving us such a great insight into Lynette as a wife, a mother, a sister, an aunt and a cousin to all of those cousins. And sitting up there in emergency with broken wrists with a smile as wide as the bay is just the most astonishing image. Extraordinary woman. We're now going to view a video from Lynette's co-workers at Road Policing.
Doing what we do, if you don't believe passionately that it's going to improve or reduce road trauma, why else are we here? We see the impact it has on the families and the people and the community and other members. All you need to do is stop 1 or 2 of those and you've really done your job. So we're all pretty passionate about it, and Lynn certainly was.
She was just a warm, approachable person that, was a really good mentor, and the constables really gravitated towards her whenever they were there, for help and learning how to learn processes and procedures. She was the person that they'd naturally go to.
Lynn has got that lasting legacy for me. I often think back to the way she nurtured me and taught me how to treat the new police constables and how to train them up, and I often reflect on it. So it's a long-standing legacy that she leaves.
Lynn was wonderful company. She was a wonderful person to spend time with. She was smart. She was well-travelled. She was compassionate, pragmatic in her policing and in her life.
There's certain members in each unit that are sort of the fibre of the unit, and the fabric that hold it together. And she was one of those members that kept everyone together, and people naturally gravitated to with a warm personality and big smile.
And you can see that Lynette was clearly loved and respected so much by her co-workers. Now Senior Police Chaplain Drew Mellor will offer a tribute for Senior Constable Kevin King on behalf of the King family.
Just by way of introduction, beside me is Kevin King's eldest son, James, and he will be sharing something briefly toward the end of what has been prepared by Sharon. As has been said, I'm Senior Chaplain, and I'm the one that attended the King Mackenzie home on the night of the 22nd of April. And I've journeyed with Sharon and her sons and family since that tragic night. And Sharon has asked me to read out her tribute on behalf of her family. It's a reflection from herself, and I read it in that way. I am here today to share this tribute and publicly honour the life and memory of Kevin King, who was and is my soulmate and partner for over 35 years. There is so much more that I could say that would express my heart, my grief, and my gratitude. However, brevity is appropriate on this occasion. As I commence, I acknowledge that many of our family and close friends and colleagues have not been able to attend today, due in part to personal or medical or practical reasons. To those joining us online, thank you for your care, your concern, and your support. Kevin joined Victoria Police just over 9 years ago. Comparatively speaking, he joined the Blue family quite late in life. However, his contribution was significant. Kevin felt restless in his previous employment, searching for a long time for something more fulfilling. And we'd often joke that he seemed like a cop long before he became a cop. He loved the experience of serving the community. For Kevin, helping others is what brought him true richness, true rewards. He was always fiercely loyal and devoted to a worthwhile cause, and was in his element and at his best when he was part of a team. Kevin was methodical, well organised, and loved the camaraderie and mateship that is associated with Victoria Police. We know that Kevin's caring, loyal nature was valued by his colleagues. And we also know that Kevin valued these specific character traits displayed by other officers, as well as the members of the team he was part of at Nunawading Highway Patrol. We as a family are and will be eternally grateful for the support and love expressed by many to us from within the Blue family. But we're especially grateful for the care and support of his close colleagues, his mates who have been with us every step of the way. From a personal perspective, Kevin was the most gentle, loving soul who loved his family dearly. He was the person that we made our plans with. He was every part of our past, present, and future. And we as a family miss him so much. And yet every day we are reminded of how much he is still with us. We miss his smile, his laughter, his sense of humour, and most of all, his way of making things better. He was the love of my life, my best friend, and the most dedicated and loving father to our 3 boys. Nearly 2 years on, we still face the long, heartbreaking journey of life without Kevin. Kevin died while serving alongside 3 other dedicated fellow officers: Lynette, Josh, and Glenn. They were serving the people of Victoria, doing their part to keep the roads of Victoria safe. Their families and extended families continued to grieve their passing, and I extend to each of them today my appreciation for the way you have helped me get through some of the darkest days of my life. And as a family, we want to publicly thank the members of the public. Those who, on that dreadful evening of April 22nd, stopped and offered care and ensured that our family members did not die alone. Your consideration and care of them will forever be remembered and appreciated. I also express the thanks of our family to Kevin's work colleagues from Nunawading Highway Patrol, who have provided the video tribute that we are about to see. and to his close friend and colleague Ian, who will present a song which he has written in honour of Kevin. In the wake of what occurred early in 2020, we know that Kevin would want us all to hold on to the special memories that are shared, memories that will stay in our hearts forever, along with the everlasting image of his beautiful smile.
I won't repeat what's been said. Mum's words express our appreciation for and love of Dad. However, I do want to express a special thank you. Dad often shared with us how all-encompassing and challenging policing can be at times. Words cannot express how much admiration we have for all of you. Every time you put on your uniform and sacrifice your own safety for the entire community. We thank all the emergency services, personnel and responders who offered assistance and the best care to our loved ones on that dreadful night. Thank you for your loyal service, your commitment, courage and dedication.
Thank you, Drew and James, for that lovely tribute, a perfect example in Kevin of a true vocation and a calling. I'd now like to introduce a video prepared by Nunawading Highway Patrol in honour of Kevin.
Kingy was a really special member. He came across to us temporarily from Doncaster Police Station on loan, and he immediately became really well liked and really well respected by everybody in the office. And I remember having a conversation with one of the sergeants one day saying that I don't think Doncaster's going to get him back just quietly.
Kingy was a great guy. He's just one of those genuine, all-out, nice guys. He was lovable, just easy, really easy to get along with. It was really easy, it made you feel comfortable. You could have a chat to Kingy about anything. He loved his football, loved Richmond, unfortunately. But we had many chats about footy and his family. You could really tell that he loved his family. Whenever he spoke to them, it's just like his eyes just lit up.
He was fiercely protective of his family, and they are very close, very tight-knit. He spoke about them regularly at work, and we'd sit down and compare notes on families, and he always had a smile on his face when he spoke about his boys and about his lovely wife. He was just, totally committed to them. He was older than a lot of the guys in the unit. People looked up to him. The young ones looked up to him. The supervisors knew that they could rely on him. Everybody in the office had only really positive things to say about Kingy. His personality was such that people were immediately drawn to him.
And he loved the job as well. And I think coming to Nunawading Highway Patrol was something that he really looked forward to and loved being there and working as a team. You could tell he was a real team member.
He was always focused on everybody's welfare, everybody's well-being. And he made sure people were okay, and he did it with humour, and he did it in a way that made everybody laugh. And one of the things I miss most about him is his cheeky smile in the office. And we had this toing and froing all the time with banter in the office, and he's just such a delight to have around. He really was. It's a shame that I haven't got more people that were like Kevin. And not to take anything away from the people we have got, they're amazing. But Kevin was one out of the box. He really was.
Our thanks to Kevin's colleagues for that lovely tribute. I now welcome to the stage Mr. Ian McLennan. Ian is Kevin's colleague, and he's written a song for you all today called Kevin's Song.
Just miles and miles of lines that we drove. Another day, I got home 2 hours ago. A distraught phone call, nothing good to say. And I can see clearly now the end of the room, you're sitting in that chair. And I remember we talked for a while about Gilmore guitars, how I miss that now. Another time we were told to stay away. We couldn't show the world what we lost. How much we wish it wasn't you, but no one would have been better. No one would have been so much better. And I can see clearly now the end of the room, you're sitting in that chair. And I remember we talked for a while about Gilmore guitars, how I miss that now. A wet and cold road, no story of glory to tell. Just miles and miles of lines that we drove. Not another day goes by when I don't see you and feel the way you made me with your smile. And I can see clearly now the end of the room, you sitting in that chair. And I remember we talked for a while about Gilmore guitars, how I miss that now. About Gilmore guitars and how I miss that now. How I miss that.
Thank you so much, Ian. Such a beautiful song, and clearly such a tight-knit and close group there that you all had together. I'm sorry you're missing that now. We'll now honour Constable Josh Presney. And I welcome to the stage Andrew and Belinda Presney to come up. Josh's brother Alex, his fiancée Rachel and friend James will perform a song at the conclusion of Andrew and Belinda's speech.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and special guests. Thank you for being here with us today. We would like to acknowledge the Premier of Victoria, the Honourable Daniel Andrews, and thank him for the opportunity to farewell Josh, Glenn, Kevin and Lynette properly today. We would also like to acknowledge Chief Commissioner Shane Patton and former Chief Commissioner Graham Ashton, who was with us in the early days. The night that we lost Josh, our world fell apart. The memory of how that night unfolded is as clear and as painful as if it happened yesterday. But as hard as it was to lose Josh, harder still has been learning to live without him.
Without the sound of his guitars and the music he loved pumping around the house, the long discussions at the dinner table, walks with a dog, and rolling our eyes at what we call Josh's contrariness, when he would deliberately pose a different point of view just to get a reaction, and then proceed to tell us why he was right. His quick wit left us floundering for comebacks, so it was easier just to let him have it.
Josh adored his dad. They travelled to Bali on several occasions, no girls allowed, went camping, attended rock concerts together and enjoyed a quiet beer at the end of the day. Josh had found love with his partner Stacey. Forever, he would say, when they talked about their plans for the future. They had finally found their forever love, and Stacey, well, she thought Josh had been created just for her.
Josh was highly intelligent, generous, loving, discerning and honest, with a deep love of family. He was an accomplished guitarist and would sit in his music room for hours. We would come home from work and pop in to say hello, but all we got was a nod. His fingers were far too busy shredding his favourite Les Paul guitar. Everything from Metallica and Mastodon to Steely Dan and Santana. Josh could play it all. Now Josh is jamming with the rock gods in the sky, working out his fantasy footy team, leading the tipping and yelling at the umpires for free kicks not paid. He'll still be cheering for his beloved Pies, a club that he was so passionate about, one that gave so many highs and quite a few lows. A 2002 grand final loss and the tears that followed from an 11-year-old boy. It was then that I thought, well, welcome to the club, my boy.
Josh's loss has left such a void in the lives of his family, friends and colleagues, and now all we have is time, while he will stay forever 28. What he was to us all, that he is still. Mention his name, laugh at his idiosyncrasies, remember his many talents and the passion he showed for the things that were important to him. His story was not finished. There was still so much to do. And while we are now in a long-term relationship with grief, our family and friends have been there for us in our darkest moments to lift us up and remind us of what Josh would want for us. We draw hope and strength from that, and we thank them from the bottom of our hearts for their love and their presence in our lives.
And even though the people of Victoria
have been going through what has been challenging and for some life-changing experiences, we've been reminded that in the face of personal tragedy, so many people have felt this loss with us. We are so very grateful for that compassion and for the opportunity to properly farewell Josh today. And to Victoria Police, you have become our second family, reaching out to us with kindness to help us get through the difficult days. And we thank you for all your support and friendship. You are truly extraordinary people.
The best way to remember Josh is through music. It was at the heart of everything he loved. So we would like to share with you some of the many people and things that were important to him, accompanied by the song written for him by his younger brother Alex, who is joined by his fiancée Rachel Amos and a great friend to both Josh and Alex, James Denopoulos. We all wish this had been just a dream.
Let's make some noise for Josh.
Check in with myself with questions I can't answer, a place that I don't recognize, and it's on you to me, so nothing's working. But I'm thinking as hard as I can about all the little things. And I watch as the rain comes down. It's a song and you sing it out loud, and I know it every time you're around. Will I be alone, or will I see your eyes once more? And every piece of you in me, I'll see you on the road. I don't even know, and I can't recall, but soon you'll be at home. We'll see you walking through the door, just a dream plays on me. And don't forget me now, you know it isn't fun to come around. So let me see that you see through this house. And do you think I know, or do you think I'm listening? 'Cause in the silence I can hear you playing, and I'm feeling the rain come down, and I'm trying to sing it out loud. And I feel you every time you're around. No, will I be alone, or will I see your eyes once more? And every piece of you in me, I'll see you on the road. And I don't even know, be at home. We'll see you walking through the door, but a dream is all I see. Vacant spaces, dreaming on a memory. Tell me why I feel like this never seems real. And I don't think I'm brave enough. I'll see you again when will I be alone? Or will I see your eyes once more? And every piece of you in me, I'll see you on the road. And I don't even know, and I can't recall, but soon you'll be at home when you're walking through the door. When you're walking through the door.
Take it away, Josh.
Thank you so much to Alex there, and Rachel and James, and Josh really could shred, couldn't he? That's just amazing. Thanks again, Alex, Rachel and James, for your beautiful tribute to Josh. I'd now like to invite Mr. Todd Robinson to the stage, who will offer the final tribute for today for Constable Glenn Humphris. And we'd also like to acknowledge the 21 members of Glenn's family who have travelled from New South Wales to be here today. Thank you so much for making such a long and difficult journey.
Good afternoon, everyone. To the Premier of Victoria, the Honourable Daniel Andrews, Victorian Police Commissioner Shane Patton, Retired Police Commissioner Graham Ashton, to the State of Victoria and all present here today, or watching the live stream Australia-wide, I thank you for attending this special day as we farewell our 4 loved ones who loved being Victorian police officers. I'd first like to start off with a look back over Glenn growing up on the Central Coast, put together by his family.
Would you know my name if I saw you in heaven? Would you be the same if I saw you in heaven? I must be strong and carry on, 'cause I know I don't belong here in heaven.
I'd like to personally thank Glenn's family for putting that together. It was very fitting to his life growing up and to all his family. Today, I stand here 94 weeks. Yes, I hate Wednesdays, and it's 94 weeks yesterday after I lost my partner, Glenn. As we remember this great guy, loved by family, friends, and me. Hasn't been easy getting to this point. The road to recovery after a tragic loss is very long and at times lonely. I've had many times where I couldn't see through the fog of grief. And yes, I had thoughts of joining Glenn. But I knew this wasn't an option, as I would only be passing my grief onto someone else, and that I would never wish on anyone. I was lucky in this situation. I had great friends and family who reached out to me and told me it was okay if I wasn't feeling right. And they helped me get the help I needed. And it wasn't just family and friends. It was my VicPol support team, my Blue family, that too reached out and provided the right words at the right time, or just the shoulder to rest my head for a few moments. I did find it was okay not to feel right, and there was no shame in that. So what I can say to anyone who needs help through very low periods in their life is to reach out and ask for it. Glenn and I lived life to the fullest and didn't miss an opportunity to get out and explore this wonderful world of ours. Some days it was just a simple drive to the Victorian countryside for lunch or a run with our dog on Brighton Beach. But I'm glad Glenn and I lived in the moment, as this has left me with over 12,000 photos of great adventures we had together. Memories that will never fade, and memories that will keep Glenn alive in my heart and soul. I thought long and hard about what needs to be said today. I've reflected over many things, and in one of them was all the beautiful, supportive messages I received from people that knew Glenn and I and people that didn't. The people that didn't know us surely do now, as it has been one of my motivating factors over the past 94 weeks, is to share how two people came together, respected each other and shared common goals and developed a relationship full of laughter, fun and adventure. And that we surely did. I'd like you all to know I might not have replied to all your messages, cards and beautiful messages on the Facebook memorial page, but I've read them all. And every word sparked an emotional tear in my eye, whilst motivating me to push through the darkness, which enabled me to be standing here today, keeping Glenn's memory alive and that I thank you all. I've also made it one of my missions is to push forward with the other 3 families to ensure this tragic, avoidable accident never happens again. I'd just like to say again, as I did 3 days after the accident, that our police officers wear a uniform, but underneath that uniform is a person that has family and friends that love them and look forward to them coming home. But on the 22nd of April 20, as Glenn and I left for work with plans already made for that evening, as we departed our Docklands apartment, we wished each other a safe day. But sadly that day he lost his life doing something he'd grown to love. And sadly he never returned to our apartment we called home and loved living in together. Instead, that night, I got the knock on our door, and as I opened the door to a sea of blue, my heart just sunk, and the simple word of no was just repeated over and over again, followed by no, that's not Glenn, he's not one of the 4. But with our eyes already welling with tears, from that moment, nothing made sense as I repeatedly asked, "Are you sure he's not coming home?" He said he was this morning. I tried so hard to understand, but they are words you never want to hear. We are sorry, but he's not coming home. Those few words still leave me today in shock and disbelief. I spent the next 7 months sitting in that apartment in lockdown, just waiting and hoping I would hear Glenn's key in the front door and see him and his smile walk through. But it never happened. I still love walking around this city and retracing our footsteps, stopping by restaurants we ate at and staring in the window, looking and remembering where we sat and what we both liked to eat. Memories, how precious they are. I'd like also today to acknowledge Finn, Aishan and your wonderful team for making today so beautiful. To Dean Howard, Dave, my chaplain, Beck, Chris, just to name a few, for your help over the past weeks as you have helped me to be standing here today. Thank you. And let's not forget the first responders and the public for trying your very best until the end. Now to some of the most amazing people. Sharon and your sons, Andrew, Belinda, Alex, Rachel and Stacey, Stuart and your sons. Thank you for the late night chats, support through court and the continued support, strength, courage we show each other as we continue to make sense of this senseless loss. I finally decided the best way to show how 2 people met and were building a future together was to represent our relationship with some of our many photos to a band we both love. So please join me as we honour Glenn and the life we had together.
The 2 of us have seen it all. Our story's been heartache and wonder. This universe ain't big enough to keep us apart, no, not ever. How many times did we stumble? How many times was it worth every fall? There's just something that keeps us together whenever my world moves from yours. Got your name on my heart in the shape of a tattoo. It's my favorite piece of art. There ain't nothing like you in this world that I know. And darling, I will never let you go. I will always be with you. You will always be here in my heart. The two of us, we got it all. Don't need no designer distractions. 'Cause in the end, I found a friend, my one and my only obsession. How many times did we stumble? How many times was it worth every fall? There's just something that keeps us together. Whenever my world moves from yours, I will always be with you. Got your name on my heart in the shape of a tattoo. It's my favorite piece of art. There ain't nothing like you in this world that I know. And darling, I will never let you go. I will always be with you. You will always be here in my heart. Come on, join me in this dance, an impossible romance. Take one step at a time and I won't let go. I will always be with you. Got your name on my heart in the shape of a tattoo. It's my favorite piece of art. There ain't nothing like you in this world that I know. And darling, I will never let you go. I will always be with you. You will always be here in my heart. You will always be here in my heart. You will always be here in my heart.
Thank you.
Thank you, Todd, for that beautiful tribute and for that very powerful message as well about asking for help. The Police Ode will now be offered by Assistant Commissioner Glenn Weir.
Thank you and good afternoon. It's a great honour for me to be asked to read the Police Ode on this occasion, a reflective piece that is really important to all members of Victoria Police. As the sun surely sets, dawn will see it arise, for service above self demands its own prize. You have fought the good fight, life's race has been run, and peace your reward for eternity begun. And we that are left shall never forget. Rest in peace, friend and colleague, for the sun has now set. We will remember. We will remember. Hasten the dawn. Thank you.
Thank you, Assistant Commissioner. You might all remember that in the wake of this tragedy, Victorians left flowers at police stations, Melbourne landmarks were illuminated in blue, and flags were flown at half-mast. At the one-year anniversary, landmark buildings around our city were again lit up in blue. We'll now look back at some of the vision that was captured from around Melbourne on those nights, and we'll note that this evening, Buildings will again shine in blue to remember Lynette, Kevin, Josh and Glenn. And at the conclusion of the video, I invite you to all join in a minute of silence. On behalf of all of the families, I thank you all for being here this afternoon. Please remain seated as the formal procession and the immediate family depart the stadium. We will then take a short break as Victoria Police members make their way to the Oval to form the Guard of Honour. So please remain in your seats and await the direction of the ushers. Thank you.
Flag party